Hello, welcome back to Wyvern Minis. This is video number 3 in my little series of the Battle at the Farm scenario that Games Workshop put out for the 35th anniversary of 40k. The previous two videos seen painting up the Orks, preparing some terrain, making some nice cheap stuff, so go check those two videos out if you want to see that. But in this video we're getting into the game and we're going to see some Orks kick the snot out of some beakies. I shouldn't really say that, I should be impartial because I was the games master, but when it comes to Orks and beakies, there's only one right way to be thinking, and it ain't thinking like a space marine. Anyway, I really like the way this scenario is put together. They've blended old elements of 40k with newer elements, which is really cool. Gives you a real good framework and ideas for how you can change your own games and make them interesting. Also, the addition of having a games master is great because you can teach people how to play without being against them. And it means that both players have their own objectives, that they don't know what the other one's trying to do, which is pretty cool. So anyway, let's get on with the game. So we've got the Space Marines controlled by Robert. We used Ultramarines as a stand-in for the Crimson Fist because, you know, they're all just beakies at the end of the day, and that's what we had available. Got some Orc shooter boys over here by the farm equipment, ready to charge in across the fields and pass the well. The Orcs being controlled by Martin, who hadn't played 40k before, so this is a good learning experience for him. This is all determined by the map in the mission pack, so you know exactly what should be where and where they have to start from, and that makes it quite easy. We used the board from the Speed Freaks game because it's 30 by 22 inches big, which is just perfect. So by this point, old Frog Bullneck has started to charge in towards the Space Marines. Some of them retreating back a little bit to be able to give themselves better sort of fire arcs to be able to defend against the charging Orcs. The Scarecrow there, that's one of the locations that the jewels can be hidden, but don't tell them that. Spoiler alert. Could also be in the farm building there, and down in the well. A few different places for them to look. So we're on a 22 by 30 table here, which is quite a tight space to be playing on, but there are night fighting rules to reduce the effectiveness of the Space Marine shooting over distance. Gives the Orcs an opportunity to get in nice and close and personal. You see Martin here is moving his slugger boys in through the orchard. They also get slowed down moving through the trees and over the hedges and things like that. So there's quite a few little bits in there to kind of make the smaller table size work. And there goes Haruk, the big boss, my Gaskell Thraka model, which I think is great. Now the Space Marines bravely ran away from Frog Bullneck here, trying to get those arcs of fire. I mean, it was, you know, Space Marines in it, trying to be tactical. The Slugger Boys here, I think you should have charged them forwards a bit more, because although they're Slugger Boys and they can shoot over a longer distance, they can't shoot very well because they're still Orcs at the end of the day. But Frog Bullneck, he was going on a little mission to go and find his jewels. That was his mission, and here he is. He's gone to have a look, and finally the Space Marines have gone charging in to try and stop him, which I think is quite brave of them, because him with that big huge chopper, he's well hard. So Haruk was looking on top of the building. He was having a look down the chimney, and they actually managed to find the jewels, and the Orcs won the day. So here we're set up for the second game, round 2. Robert swapped over and decided to use the Orcs, and we had Josh playing as Space Marines. Josh was new to 40k, so this was going to be a good experience for him. Robert obviously now had an idea of what each side was doing, but really there's nothing particularly secret about what the Space Marines are trying to do. They're just trying to survive and kill all the Orcs, so it's fairly standard. Really pleased how the board came together here, and it looks a lot better with better lighting as well. Weird flickery lighting in the previous place, I didn't understand why it was doing that. Anyway, everything's set up, the same sort of deployment as before, because that's all dictated by the mission pack, and away they went. So the Orcs came charging across the fields, over the hedgerows. Robert learned a lesson from Martin and decided to charge the shooter boys forwards. The slugger boys and bosses coming through the orchard as before, but he decided to get Throg Bullneck really charging into the midst of the Space Marines, which was a slightly different tactic, and ended up with a huge fight in the middle of the battlefield, which is just what the Orcs are after, really, at the end of the day. charging the shooter boys in to support Thrug in his battle against the Space Marines there in the farmhouse was a good shout, I reckon, because although shooters make a lot of noise and quite impressive, you can shoot from a distance and all that kind of stuff, you ain't going to hit much at range, and they're probably better just turning around and clubbing the Space Marines to death of them, which is what they did pretty well in this game actually. And that plan, if you can call it a plan, was going pretty well until a Orks decided to come out of his pen. Although luckily for Thrug, it went charging after the beakies and started smashing the Space Marines up, which was a bit of a shame for them. These kind of random events in this game, I think, really make it exciting and fun. There's the opportunity for the Games Master to add more of these random events. It's really up to you to decide how the game's going, and if you think it needs a little bit of spicing up, chuck a Orks in there or make something happen. There's a table of things that you can roll on, but you encouraged to make up your own stuff, which I think is just great. Love it. I mean, overall, I think the scenario is a great one. I really enjoyed running it for these guys, and it was such a good opportunity for them to learn the rules of the game a bit better. Something that I think is worth doing now that the 10th edition's out. This was obviously a little while ago, so it was based on 9th edition rules. It's not a lot of difference, but yeah, a little bit. So I think we'll try and run something like this again, but it gives a good idea of just how you can tweak things. You know, take the ideas of the game and change them, which has always been encouraged. It makes it difficult if you're turning up to a tournament or turning up to a club where you're playing against somebody almost at random. But if you're playing with some friends in a small game and you talk about it beforehand, it's very easy to tweak some bits here and there to try and make the game more fun. And that's what it's all about, just having more fun. I mean, here you can see the Space Marines properly beleaguered. Assaulted on both sides by the Orks. It was a slightly different approach. Robert pretty much decided he didn't care about Thrug finding the jewels. He thought he'd just kill all the Space Marines and pick up the jewels later, which is a potentially valid tactic. But there was also a bit of a time limit on the game overall, because if they didn't get them as quickly as they could, reinforcements might start coming in. But as it was, Space Marines are in a lot of trouble. The Orks closing in throughout the farm, jumping over the fence. It was great. The Orks were still running about, and pretty much most of the Space Marines did get slaughtered, which was a bit of a shame for them. And Throgbornek got his one-on-one fight against the captain, representing Pedro Cantor here. Obviously Pedro Cantor wearing a different outfit, but yeah, Thrug ultimately threw the poor Space Marine down into the dirt and stamped his face in, which, you know, that's how it goes really. I mean, look at the size of him compared to the size of that Space Marine. He's a monster. So yeah, it turned into another victory for the Orks in this scenario. I think it's definitely possible to win as the Space Marines, but didn't happen in either of these games. So I hope that's given you a little flavour of how this scenario goes. I really enjoyed putting it together, making it look nice. I'm really pleased with how the table looked, and I think that adds something to the game. If you can get everything painted and have some nice terrain, makes the game a bit more fun and immersive. And playing a scenario like this where you've got a bit of extra events going on, you've got a bit of extra excitement, I just think it adds to it. So you can download that scenario from the Warhammer community website and have a go yourself. I think it's a lot of fun, and I'll see you for the next one. Cheers, bye.